What if the world you always played suddenly became real? A place where everything is made of blocks, imagination is power, and one mistake could destroy two worlds. This is the story of Steve, Garrett, and a single crystal that changed everything. A woman stepped out of her car after causing trouble and was shocked by a man with an oversized, block-shaped head. Although they didn't understand each other, both responded with politeness and respect. The appearance of block people in the real world traces back to Steve's childhood. Since he was young, Steve dreamed of mining and believed the mines were filled with hidden treasures, until an old miner stopped him and warned him to stay away. 18 long years passed, but Steve never forgot his childhood dream. Carrying his mining tools, he returned to the mine. He maneuvered his way around, skillfully avoiding the old. A surge of mysterious energy erupted, and a portal to another world suddenly opened. Without hesitation, Steve stepped inside. The scene before him was breathtaking, like a dreamlike utopia. Everything he saw was made of blocks. The bees were block-shaped, the sheep were block-shaped, and even the people were perfectly square. Steve arrived at a strange ruin. Steve took materials from a chest and filled in the missing parts of a portal with loud clanking sounds. A brand new portal appeared. Clumsy Dennis rushed straight into the portal, leaving Steve no choice but to follow. The sight before him was shocking. This was the Nether, the domain of the evil Queen Malgosha. The native Piglins were extremely greedy for gold. They constantly dug through underground tunnels, but over time, blind mining had left gold resources nearly depleted. When Malgosha saw the crystal in Steve's hands, her eyes lit up with greed. The crystal was the key that connected the overworld and the Nether. With it, she could invade the overworld and easily plunder its gold. Realizing he had caused a huge, Dennis ran to the mountaintop and howled endlessly into the distance. He could only wait for someone destined to appear, someone who would enter the game world and save Steve. When the boy later combined the crystal again, a mysterious force burst forth. In the next second, they were sucked into the portal and entered the block world. After getting up, they were all stunned by the breathtaking scenery. They couldn't believe that in another dimension, such a beautiful and fantastical world could exist. Meanwhile, in the Nether, Queen Malgosha was furious because she could no longer mine gold. In her rage, she summoned a young piglin, pulled out a knife, and casually killed the unlucky creature, turning it into a piece of charred pork. When she looked up and saw the brilliant glow of the crystal lighting up the Nether once again, she immediately sent out her most powerful general, the Piglin King, determined to seize the crystal at all costs. Garrett and his group entered the overworld. As night fell, the block world became extremely dangerous. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed from behind. Garrett panicked and turned around, throwing a powerful punch. The creeper he hit began flashing violently before exploding. Garrett fled onto a rooftop, but block zombies closed in on him step by step. He then enthusiastically introduced the local specialty food, the one-of-a-kind lava-roasted chicken, even creating a ridiculous advertising slogan for it. 2.5 minutes later, the freshly roasted chicken was ready. Steve eagerly grabbed a chicken leg, only to scream in pain from the heat. Starving, Garrett rushed over, snatched the leg, and took a huge bite, immediately burning himself and turning red. To avoid embarrassing himself, he pretended to stay calm and held back his tears. Steve brought them to a safe house to forge their own weapons. Garrett immediately noticed a small orb and asked what it was. Steve explained that it was an ender pearl, which could teleport you to wherever it landed. Garrett didn't believe him and was instantly proven and striking them to create powerful weapons. Henry combined potatoes and iron blocks, instantly creating a projectile launcher. Garrett followed suit and crafted 2 makeshift nunchucks. At that moment, the Piglin army tracked them to the village and shot a villager without hesitation. Steve drew his sword, ready to fight, but Garrett rushed ahead to show off, difficult. Steve and Garrett quickly adjusted their bodies, aligning themselves perfectly. Just as another cannon fired, they squeezed through the opening. The chasing balloons crashed into the net and exploded spectacularly. Using fireworks, Henry finally shook off the piglins, but the fireworks went out of control. He crashed into Garrett and Steve, causing the Elytra to malfunction. All 3 plummeted toward the ground. Steve threw a bucket of water at the ground just in time, allowing them to land safely. Elsewhere, Natalie and Dawn casually chatted while taking down the zombies following them. After all the fighting, dealing with these enemies had become easy. Suddenly, a ferocious wolf charged at them. Dawn stopped Natalie and calmly used a bone to tame it. They realized it was Dennis, Steve's loyal dog. When Malgosha learned her forces had been wiped out, she flew into a rage and unleashed her ultimate weapon, a massive nether beast. She coldly disposed of the Piglin king and ordered the beast to retrieve the crystal. Steve led Garrett and Henry into a mine filled with red gemstones. He warned them about traps everywhere. Seconds later, Garrett triggered a switch, opening a hidden chamber full of priceless diamonds. Garrett hurriedly stuffed them into his pockets. A massive crash echoed as the nether beast caught up. They rushed into a minecart and sped through the tunnels. When a torch went out and was relit, they found themselves surrounded by creepers. Fortunately, the cart reached a booster track just in time. They escaped as explosions engulfed the beast behind them. They continued toward the woodland mansion, knowing they needed the crystal to open the portal. Steve devised a ridiculous plan to disguise themselves as a band and perform. They set off toward the deepest part of the spirit realm. They must get the crystal to open the portal. Steve comes up with a crazy, rule-breaking plan. They disguise themselves as a band and perform songs. After entering the spirit realm, a group of Illagers blocks their path. Garrett is dragged onto the arena, while Steve is tied up nearby. To save Steve, the opponent must be defeated first. Garrett can't believe his eyes. His opponent is actually a short-legged chicken. Steve gets caught in the chaos. He uses the rope's elasticity to fling the little monster away. The baby zombie instantly bursts into tears after hitting the ground. Hearing the crying almost melts Garrett's heart, and he steps closer to comfort it. But it turns out to be a trap. As the crowd cheers loudly, the baby zombie climbs onto the railing, preparing for a final strike on Garrett. At the last possible second, Steve jumps up and intercepts the attack. Together, they finish the fight. Henry grabs the crystal and jumps down, and the three of them make a run for it. As soon as they exit, they crash into stay behind alone. He puts on his favorite sunglasses, strikes one last cool pose, and charges straight into the piglins. The army is wiped out in a massive explosion. With the crystal, Malgosha opens the portal, and countless piglins pour into the overworld. The worst fear finally comes true. Steve decides to take the crystal back. Together, they stand united against the darkness and prepare for a final battle with Queen Malgosha. Henry uses his powerful imagination, designing many magical tools overnight. Using the crafting table, they create all kinds of powerful weapons. To fight the massive Piglin army, they build an army of Iron Golems. Henry equips each golem with stored energy. Soon, the final battle begins. Seeing the towering Iron Golem army, the Piglins start to hesitate. Malgosha knows that if they don't provoke the golems, the Iron Golems won't attack on their own. She orders her troops to avoid them and sneak around to attack Steve instead. One nervous Piglin panics, his hand slips, and he attacks a golem. The Iron Golem strikes back immediately, throwing the unlucky Piglin far away. A brutal all-out war breaks out. Henry and his sister swing their weapons, joining the chaotic fight. Seeing her army losing ground, Malgosha releases her ultimate weapon, the Nether Beast. The beast charges wildly across the battlefield. Final blow to the Nether Beast. Empowered like a hero, Steve defeats Malgosha. She makes one last attempt, pitifully asking Steve to come closer. Steve stays alert and sees through her trick. Malgosha weakly begs again, claiming she has a secret to tell him. Steve hesitates for a moment, but predicts her next move. Again and again, he blocks her sneak attacks, each one more desperate than the last. Garrett and Henry prepare to return home. Even though imagination is limitless here, this world was never meant to be theirs. Steve sadly says goodbye to Garrett. Garrett invites Steve to return with them, reminding him that as long as he stays brave and doesn't give up, the real world can also become his main world. Those words deeply move Steve. He realizes he can't hide in a game forever. At the last moment, he jumps into the portal. Steve and Garrett later form a band, often performing around town. Dawn and Dennis become close friends. Natalie opens a boxing gym. Henry invents a rocket backpack, becoming the envy of everyone. The meaning of Minecraft might simply be this: helping you rediscover the passion and inspiration you once lost.